Welcome back. So back to the conversation concerning insecurity, especially the recent happenings. We do have joining us to discuss this, Director for Geneva Center for African Security and Strategic Studies. Mr. David Otto joins us this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So we have another one, especially a tougher one, especially in front of our hands right now. It was the Chibok girls. We had Dakchi. We had the one for the 376 and so on. I mean, the list is starting to look like it's endless. And there's some that, of course, were mentioned, neither here nor there, pocket size and so on. You see, the truth is, as journalists, sometimes we ourselves, we're overwhelmed when we see these stories and we start reading out numbers. But when we have you as an expert join us, it's very important that we hear your own side of the story, especially how to handle situations like this. So let me start by asking, you've heard of the recent one. What's the way forward? And what do you think, personally, is really happening to Nigeria's security architecture? Is it that we are overwhelmed as well, just like journalists are at some point? Or do you think that we're not putting our best foot forward?
I think it's a little bit of both. You know, the mass kidnappings in Nigeria, a catastrophic, situation. It cuts across, political parties. Whether you want to talk about the PDP or the, or the APC party. If you want to talk about, it cuts across service chiefs. This has happened, as you rightly mentioned, across the board. It's something that it's not even within the limits of any, Christian or Muslim community, because that's very important, in this current political climate. And then what is very sad is that it's not just about soft targets. Yes, we're talking about the recent Kebbi kidnapping of girls, in the girls' comprehensive secondary school. But then recently we still had a brigadier general, someone who is a brigade commander of the Damboa military general, abducted by a so-called jihadist group linked to the ISWAP and executed. So the issue of not just mass kidnapping, again, as I said, in terms of individual kidnaps, cuts across the board. And it does demonstrate that, there is a massive need of a change of tactic, a change of strategy. We talked about Chibok as being the last, but then we had Dakchi, we had the Jangambe raid, we had, the Kangara kidnapping. So it's something that demonstrates that we still are yet to come up with a strategy. And it's not just because, the military is overstressed. It's also because, we haven't devised a strategy that, can protect soft targets. We haven't devised a strategy that can actually protect even hard military targets. And it does demonstrate that, the whole Nigerian security infrastructure requires, some kind of a protection of critical infrastructure, but also a protection of citizens. I mean, it falls outside of the basic social contract that the government is unable, to protect the people, even though the people have given some of their liberty because of the need for security, and the government is not doing its part. So it's a very, very, precarious condition, and a lot of citizens are now worried what happens next.
Thank you, David. And I'm glad you mentioned the aspect of social contract. The president, as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, is the #1 citizen, and he does instill discipline. Instill confidence in his populace and also members of the Nigerian armed forces. You mentioned that very terrible incident in Damboa, where the brigade commander, Brigadier General Uba, was killed by ISWAP terrorists, and then the situation of this kidnapping. David, it's been 48 hours since this incident, and as at this morning, a few minutes ago, we checked the presidency's Twitter feed. There's been no statement issued by the presidency acknowledging any one of these incidents. What kind of message does that send?
It sent a very wrong message. But also remember, again, as I talked about the fact that mass kidnappings or kidnappings of any kind have become normalized. You know, the Chibok girls that were kidnapped in 2014, they've still not all been recovered, you know, by the government. So we're not talking about the ones that were kidnapped just 2 days or something ago. You know, and same for other mass kidnaps. You know, even military police officers have been kidnapped at mass. So even if the government makes a statement, I don't think it would, you know, bring them back. You know, you had the Bring Back Our Girls, you know, which was not just a national campaign, it was an international campaign, yet the Chibok girls are still yet to be recovered, all of them. So statements, you know, will not make any difference, and this is why I mentioned that kidnappings cut across presidents. You know, we're talking about the current president, but even during the Buhari regime, we had kidnappings. During the Jonathan regime, we had kidnappings. So it tells you that it's not just about how presidents react. It's not just about you know, what the public says and or how, you know, people cry out. It's that there is no strategy to protect soft targets. There is also no strategy to protect hard military targets, which is a major concern. And this is where I think the torch should be pointing towards.
And you share the same sentiments that I had about this conversation when we started the show this morning. Again, I said that it's unfortunate that these are soft targets, and we should typically know that these terrorists are bullies. They would easily go for soft targets as often as they can. So what will protection of our soft targets look like? And what role does local intelligence play in all of this?
I think when it comes to protecting, you know, soft targets, you know, there is a very crucial element, and that's the involvement of the local population. You need to have a local population is very vigilant. Is that if the population doesn't trust that they will have the backing of the military or the police or other security agencies, then of course they will be very reluctant to play that critical role. So when you do lack intelligence, then of course it will be very difficult for the security services to judge properly. But again, if the security services are not trusted, they do have some lapses, then again, it's almost like, you know, a catch-22 scenario. So, I mean, the question has always been, then, you know, are the Nigerian militaries overstretched? I don't think it's all about, you can't have so many as military. You can't just have enough. There is no country that can boast that it has enough military men to deal with its population. So that is not something which, you know, one can say, oh, the military is overstretched, we need more men. That's not how things work. I think, you know, as long as the population, and this is what we talk about, the civil-military relationship, as long as that is solid, the population can trust that, you know, whenever they're in trouble, they can have the backing of the military. And the military also needs to have the capabilities to be able to do that. But once that gap exists, then you have a very reluctant population, one that will continue to, you know, shift towards fear. And when I discuss fear, I talk about the fear of non-state armed groups. You know, so if a population is more afraid of non-state armed groups and they lack the trust of the security services, then they would drift towards fear. It's a natural human reaction, which is simply to survive.
Now, David, also looking at strategies to deal with this threats that we're seeing, we've also seen change of personnel, so that there might be a different doctrine in how to approach these threats. We've seen service chiefs change. There's also the National Security Advisor who's been there for a while. Having said that, is our military equipped to handle asymmetric threats like banditry and insurgency? Because people always, I mean, they refer to the gallantry of Nigerian peacekeepers in Sierra Leone and Liberia, and you fast forward to 2025 and they don't seem to be able to deal with this sort of threat, which is similar to what they dealt with in Sierra Leone.
Yeah, so the way that it works from a security point, you've got what you call the threats, and then you've got to look at the threat dynamics. You know, how powerful is the threat? You know, what are their motives? What kind of, weapons do they have? You know, what is the tactics that they use? And then you look at what you call the vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities is simply referred to the ability of the state or security service to deal with that threat. So when you it tells you that the threat seems to be while the vulnerabilities, seems to be also very high. So when the threat is high, that means the militants or the bandits or whatever they call themselves or terrorists, if they do have the willpower, they have more weapons, to waste. They have, timelines, they attack during day, at dawn, they attack at night. As opposed to the state security services, when they do not have the right morale, when they lack perhaps, the weapons, when they lack intelligence, when they lack the cooperation of the communities, then we say that the vulnerabilities are very high and the threat level is also high. So that is always going to go against the state. So I think what the state needs to do is to lower its vulnerabilities, therefore make it very difficult for the militants to launch these attacks, but make it also very easy for the state security forces to be able to respond to the threat levels. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is for the government itself to try and lower the threat, which means they have to deny the militants, from recruiting. They have to deny them from, getting weapons. They have to ensure that the targets become very difficult, both during the day and during the night. Then they have to ensure that the local population doesn't rely on the bandits to give them any information, or they don't fear the bandits. So which means you have to increase the level of trust, from the side of the government. So once you look at these two dynamics, and this is where it is critical for the Nigerian authorities to be able to balance between lowering the vulnerabilities that exist and also lowering the threat level, and that's how you resolve, these kind of issues.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much for your time, David Otto. I understand that you need to be somewhere, but we want to thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talk to you again as we await the latest updates concerning that. We've been flashing on the screen the Chief of Army Staff. We hear he's on ground, and his men have their boots solidly tied. They're ready to go and ensure they rescue the girls. But we'll have another conversation, this same conversation, with another security expert. But I want to thank you, first of all, David, for joining us. Thank you for your time.
David.
Thank you. All right. Aside from what had taken place, especially there in Kebbi State, joining us now is retired director of the DSS, Mr. Dennis Amachree, joins us live this morning. Thank you so much for being here as well. Another sad incident, no doubt.
Thank you.
Yes, and I know I would like to get your reaction to what's really, really happening. And it's quite sad. But first of all, let's take a look at that video of the Chief of Army Staff. We do hear Wadi Shaibu, who's on ground. Let's see what the video is indeed saying.
We'll continue day and night until we find these people. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
We'll do what?
Day and night.
It's when we find these children that we can now say that yes, we have done our job. So for the commanders here, we leverage on intelligence so that we conduct an intelligence-based mission to rescue these girls. It has become a pattern that the bandits they prey on soft targets. If they know you are in a location, they won't come there. Or they will brace up for a fight. And you can defeat them, can't you? Yes. I'm asking you. Yes. So you do that. To that directive, you cannot be starting at a particular point. You need to be moving. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Una G20? Yeah? What's the message?
So the video you've seen there is a video of the Major General Wadi Shaibu, who happens to be Lieutenant General, I beg your pardon, who happens to be the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of who's right there on the ground. But the point here is this incident took place, we'll say a fortnight, and he's there talking to the men, saying they need to comb the bushes morning and night to ensure that they rescue the girls. But we'll get your reaction after the break. We need to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'd like to get your reaction, Mr. Dennis Amachree, on what you think is really happening. Plus, do you have any iota of belief that we'll be able to rescue the 25 girls? But stay with us after the break. Welcome back. We're still looking at the insecurity situation bedeviling Nigeria as we continue to seek for a true path of justice and success, especially for those who have lost their lives and the 25 girls who have just been kidnapped. We have joining us former Director DSS, Mr. Dennis Amachree, joins us live. Right before the break, I did show you a video of the Chief of Army Staff, Wadi Shaibu, who was talking tough to the men on ground, telling them they have to work 24 hours to ensure they bring the girls back, 25 of them. What's your take on that? I also asked, do you have any iota of a belief that they will be able to win this war and bring the girls back?
Thank you very much for having me. This is a very sad situation, a very, very sad situation. Starting from 2014, when we had the Chibok girls kidnapping, to 2025, going through the Dapchi girls and all of them, I think about 2,000 school children have been, kidnapped. And we've not got all of them back. And this is one, like a sore thumb sticking out in our fight against the insurgency. And then, of course, why do they continue doing it? When it happened the first time, in fact, we came up with the Safe School Initiative. The Safe School Initiative to take care of all the schools, especially those that are in areas of conflict. But that's, I think they are haphazardly, administered, because in that Safe School Initiative, there are many things that can be done. And I don't think they did it. And because of maybe lack of funds or lack of manpower, most of the schools you can see are not well fortified. They are not, they're just there. And, not enough security to protect them. So are we really serious about this? Because like we've been saying, when it happens, governors will go and make a statement. Police will go there. You see the general, talking to his men. And, they are not, they are not feeling very, very, the morale is not high because you don't even have real equipment for them. We are fighting an asymmetric war with traditional methods, and that is not going to work because it's not going to be combing bush and looking at people and then, of course, endangering their lives. What happened to the drones? What happened to the surveillance system, electronic surveillance, and air powers that we need to look for these people wherever they are hiding? So these are the problems that are facing the military, and it will continue to happen because if we continue pursuing it the way we have been doing it, I don't think we're going to get a headway.
All right. I am really genuinely concerned about where we are and what this says about us, about our security architecture, and if you think in any way this also influences the international conversations that have been happening regarding insecurity in Nigeria, particularly the United States threat of invasion because of the killing of Christians. Now, these young girls have been kidnapped. We honestly, certainly are holding out to hope that they return, that our security agencies are able to intervene. But how do you think this impacts the general international conversation that has been going on for weeks now?
Of course, it is strengthening the international conversation that we're having. You know, remember, these girls who are in school, most of them you will say they are Christians. You know, this is Kebbi State, which is mainly, you know, not very, very Islamized, so to say. And then, of course, one thing is happening. These bandits or terrorists are trying to test the resolve of the Nigerian state. They are, you know, because what they are doing, attacking, you know, doing the same things that they've been doing before and challenging the Nigerian state to come for them, you know, and of course, even attacking, they just killed a general. That is a slap on our military. Now, why are we not having the political will to fight this? That is the issue. Because I know fully well that if we are very, very serious, you know, our military can take out these people, but there is political implications. And those are the things we need to look at, you know, and those are the things the president needs to look at, because there are people who want to make sure that they continue to embarrass him so that, you know, we are heading towards an election. But I will advise that you forget that election and deal with these things, because it is after they've been wiped out that, you know, good elections will take place. So, third columnist in government, third columnist in other spheres in Nigeria are giving this problem, you know, a gusto to go on. And the international community is watching. It's watching because, okay, think about it. The kind of sophisticated weapons they are carrying, who is buying it for them? Who is buying it for them?
Very important.
It is not the money they got from kidnapping. So there is some sponsors, you know, funding them. And we need to get those people. I think the sponsors are mainly the people that we need to get. And government have some of them. You know, so why not name and shame them? And allowing them to, you know, play with the country as they are doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amachree. We have a plethora of security agencies, NSCDC, Defense Intelligence Agency, the Armed Forces, the DSS, and many Nigerians are wondering, you have all these security agencies and yet we still see them hit this soft targets. You did acknowledge the asymmetrical nature of this warfare. My question to you is, as a former director of the DSS, what role does the DSS play in preventing attacks on this soft target? I mean, you also talked about equipment that we're fighting this asymmetrical warfare with equipments that are not compatible for this modern day warfare. What do they need to, what sort of assets need to be deployed in order to deal with this sort of threats?
Well, in fact, we've discussed about this so many times, you know. The military is aware, the police is aware, you know, whereby even the DSS have, you know, gone further to, you know, modernize some of their equipment. You know, drones is the game right now, everywhere. Even the Ukraine war is drones they are using right now. And we need to get those. The problem is that these drones are very expensive. And then, of course, I've mentioned it to you before, the money that we are allocating to defense and which we say, oh, defense is the highest budget, you know, that does not cut it. Because that defense budget is nothing when it comes to, buying modern equipment. And then, of course, a Predator drone, for instance, is about 10 million for one. And then, of course, if it is flying and they shoot it down, there goes the money. So you have to, get the drone, acquire it, train the people who are going to be the pilots, very, very well trained to handle that. And then, of course, get many, because we have a vast ungoverned spaces in the country. And then, of course, to get information about these people or to penetrate them, the DSS have to go a great length to even endanger some of their operatives. Because to get information about these people, which they have been doing, is dangerous. You recruit somebody among those bandits, and those bandits will not know. And if they come to know that person, they'll kill the person. So these are the things that are facing the country. But one thing is very clear. Fund them so that they can get modern equipment, and then, of course, increase their numbers. The number is still below 1.5 million. Army, Navy, Air Force, DSS, NSCDC, police, all of them together. It's not up to 1.5 million. In a country of 230 million people, executing a war in a very vast area with asymmetric enemies. So now you can get the kind of picture that we're talking about.
Okay. One wonder why the security operatives are lacking in personnel, especially recruitment. Is it because the remunerations are not that pretty or looking good, so nobody really wants to join the force? But that's one question I'd like you to answer, by the way. My major question is concerning Sheikh Gumi, who has been speaking as well. He's mentioned his role in ensuring that these ones who have been former terrorists are brought back into the society. He's negotiated for them. He's done all of that. I want to know your take on this. And does it in any way pose a security threat in line with what we're going through when you find someone who's talking openly about what he's done, especially seeing that all the things he's done has in one way or the other also escalated the current situation in which we find ourselves?
We have to prosecute this particular fight by not having anybody above the law. Because there are many people. He feels that he's an Islamic cleric, and then he can say whatever he wants to say, and then, of course, nobody is going to talk to him because he feels that, he's a sacred cow, And then, of course, these people are killing people. They are maiming people up and down, and he's saying that, we should talk to them as we talked to the Niger Delta militants. That immediately tells you that it does not have a grasp of what is going on here. The people he's trying to defend are criminals. Criminals who are killing Nigerian military generals. Our soldiers. He was a military man before. Would they have liked it if these people were attacking him and then, of course, pursuing to kill him? So I don't know why the Nigerian state has been allowing this guy walking around making unnecessary statements, daring the Nigerian state, daring the authority of the commander-in-chief. And I think this is time for us to start addressing these things, because this thing will continue with us as long as we politicize security.
Now, talking about dealing,
have a mix of religion into it.
All right, we'll come back to continue the conversation, but let's go on a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll pick up from where we left off.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central, and we're currently looking at the security situation in the country following the kidnapping of 25 schoolgirls in Kebbi State. We have joining us this morning for this discussion Mr. Dennis Amachree, former director at the DSS. Thanks for staying with us, Mr. Amachree. My question to you is that should we end, I mean, it's been more than a decade since we've been dealing with these problems and we don't seem to be making any headway. There are also human rights concerns because the last time we took the gloves off and, faced this threat squarely, the United States refused to sell Super Tucano jets to us, citing Leahy laws and concerns about human rights. Is it time to end, carrot and stick approach? Olive, could you help me with the other one? Carrot and stick? No, non-kinetic.
Okay.
Yes, and deal decisively with this issue of banditry and terrorism, regardless of whose ox is good.
I think what we need to do at this time, the United States, as a very good partner and ally, to Nigeria, we've been their friends for very, very long time. And I think the concern, even from people talking in the United States president trying to talk about invasion and stuff like that, is because they are more concerned with Nigeria. They are very concerned about Nigeria. And what we will do, I don't basically think that, the United States is going to come and start, bombing places or attack, There are many arguments to that. But I know that if the government open up their diplomatic channels with the United States, they will be here to help us to fight this terrorism. They will be here to help us fight this terrorism. People like Sheikh Gumi will be telling you that he is warning the United States that they should not, telling the president not to allow, to tell President Trump not to come. Yes, why? Because those are his people, and he wants to protect them, And one thing is that we don't want to give a coloration, a religious coloration to the issue. We want to fight terrorism, and whether it is Islamic or whatever, but we want to fight terrorism, and we don't care whether those people are Christians or Islamic adherents. So the best thing is for us to face it and deal with it. But when you want to deal with it, you find out that people will come up with, oh, they are our brothers, oh, they are our children, and stuff like that. I think that narrative has to stop. They have to stop because we cannot continue like this.
And also, let's talk about foreign pressure. The fact that, the United States has designated us as a country of particular concern. Does this give the government any sort of impetus to step up its fight against terrorism? Because the optics we're seeing, it's been 48 hours. The commander-in-chief has not acknowledged the loss of the brigade commander in Damboa, Brigadier Uba. And also, the only statement we've received from the government is a statement from the Ministry of Information acknowledging the incidents in the last 48 hours. Are we really taking this external concerns as serious as we should? Or maybe things are happening behind the scenes that we don't know about?
Well, things might be happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. But, the initial reaction, of course, by Nigerians and even by the government is one of either denial, oh, is it genocide? No, it's not genocide. No, it's genocide. It's not, denial. We all know that people are being killed. We don't care whether they are Christians or Muslims, but we should make sure that we pinpoint, identify the problem that is facing us and deal with it. So I think the government has to do more work. look at open up diplomatic channels, because I don't think we still have an ambassador here in Washington, and we should have. And then, of course, people should be talking to people. Like I said, the United States, is not really ready to come and start bombing people there, but I think they are just even offering a hand. If we are ready to work with them, I think they can help. But let us not put religion into it, or, put politics into it, because this thing has been with us for more than 16 years. And I think this is a chance for us to actually, deal with it. The security agencies are doing very well. Since that announcement, if you observe, the military itself has really decimated some of these people, although they are ambushing people. But yeah, those are the collateral damages of war. But at the same time, the DSS had been prosecuting some of the arrested people, and that's what I wanted to see. Because we don't arrest and keep them, prosecute and jail them. And then, of course, the next step, name those people that are supporting these people. The government should take that bold step to name those people. They are within this country. Name them and shame them, prosecute them. The sky is not going to fall. Some people feel that they are sacred cows and nobody can touch them, but I think the government have to take that bold step in taking care of this matter.
So you've mentioned the things that you think the government should do. Name them, shame them, and a number of other steps that the government should take to ensure that they show us that they are dealing decisively with terrorism. But do you have faith in this administration to do all that you've mentioned?
Yes, that's what I mean. They should show the Nigerian public that they are dealing with this thing decisively.
No, what I'm asking is, if you believe that the government will do all of this that you've said, it's one thing for us to say the government should do this. It's another thing to say the government, you trust that the government will. Do you trust that this administration will?
Knowing that next year is a penultimate year to a general election also.
Because there is general election coming, I mentioned this earlier, because there is general election coming, the politicians are trying to be very, very careful on, who's told they step on and stuff like that. And that's why I said that, the president should forget the elections, the 2027 election, and deal with these terrorists. Deal with them, clear them out, and then he will still win. Because those people, in fact, the country should come to know that there are people within the country that are stopping the progress of this country. People who are supporting terrorists to be killing other Nigerians, and the president have to have that political will, because that political will is necessary. There are people who feel larger than size in the country, and they feel that they are untouchables. And those untouchables who are supporting these terrorists have to be dealt with, because we cannot continue like this. Otherwise, it will break up this country. If we are not able to handle this particular problem, then I don't know where we are going. It's existential.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis Amachree, for your clear insights on the recent insecurity challenges that's affecting Nigeria. Thanks for your time, and we would look forward to what will happen, or what would unfold in the coming few hours. Thank you.
Thank you very much.